Okay, Alan, I'm just going to talk to you about the sale. You have to.
Yeah. Tell me about it. What am I saving? What are the benefits?
Well, we are having a Memorial Day pre-sale today, actually, and we're giving 25% off all of the e-juice on our site with a $15 minimum spend, so a pretty good deal. We're doing it to kind of get out in front of everyone. There's going to be a ton of Memorial Day sales right around next weekend, so we wanted to get out ahead of the pack and make sure that everybody could save on their e-juice. So
Yeah.
okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ejuices.com Live. I am Tina, your social media guru, and today our show is titled Spoiled with Coils, and we have an expert panel of coil artists, builders, sellers that are going to be coming on today in all different segments. From everywhere, from all around, and teaching us a little bit about coil. They all have their own area of specialty when it comes to the art of coil, if you will. So we're very excited for that. On top of that, you guys, we are also in the middle of having a sale today. It's a one-day sale. It's our Memorial Day pre-sale going on right now. We've linked that in the description below for all of you guys. It's 25% off all of the e-juice on our site with a $15 minimum spend. Really good deal, you guys. I know that everybody's out there having Memorial Day sales next weekend, but if you stock up at this sale, you'll have your e-juice for the holiday instead of buying it on the holiday and then waiting. So that's what we've got going on. But like I said, you guys, we're taking you behind the scenes with these top coil experts. So if you guys have any questions regarding coils, how they're built, custom versus pre-made, safety, anything, how the act of building is therapeutic, these guys will cover all of that for you. And be sure to drop those questions in the live chat for us if you would. So if you guys are interested in viewing our impressive coil panel, and entering our awesome giveaway, which we've also linked below, then stay tuned. But first, I'm going to go ahead and roll that intro. Awesome. So we're back, you guys, and thank you for joining us. ejuices.com Live is brought to you by ejuices.com, home of over 2,200 brands, hardware, DIY supplies, and more. And as I said before, you guys, we are having a sale right now, which I have dropped in the description below. We have a giveaway for this evening, which I have also dropped in the description below. And you guys know the drill on these giveaways. We're picking the winner at 7:35 tonight, so about 5 minutes later than we usually do. But make sure that you are in the live chat. Make sure that you say, hey, I'm here in the live chat. Like, make sure you're here at 7:35 if you enter that giveaway, guys. You're definitely going to not want to miss out on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and include that link to the giveaway in the chat as well for all of you guys. So everyone out there, help me welcome Alen Arjid. And thank you, Alen, for joining us again. We've actually had Alen on before for his own full segment that he's done with us back in January. If you guys want to check our live show playlist, you'll actually see the video with Alen that we did. So if you're interested in learning all about Alen a little bit more in depth, feel free to check out that video. But for now, Alan's actually going to be helping me moderate the show. He's the one who helped rope together all these amazing coil artists and this entire panel tonight. So thank you, Alen. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm super happy to be back. Super fun the first time, and I'm sure it'll be a good time today as well.
Fantastic. We're so stoked to have you. And I know that a lot of you guys who watch the live shows, you always come back every week, so you probably recognize Alen. But I want to ask Alen, we've got, we talked to you back in January. So we did, like a very full kind of in-depth analysis of why you coil build and how you got into it and stuff. But can you tell us a little bit about, we talked about how you do it, but I would like to know a little bit about why you feel so passionate about building coils.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, I think, I spoke a little bit about it on the last show, but I guess what keeps me into it is, the same things really that got me into it initially. So, I mean, it was a time in my life where, I really could have used some type of outlet. I've always been a guy who's been interested in some type of like creative outlet for myself. And, I've done like music and I've done like all sorts of visual arts and stuff like that. And I was sort of, like I said, looking for something new at that time. And I didn't even really know I was looking. A building kind of found me in some weird way. I think like probably a couple months after I started vaping, I started getting into rebuilding my RDAs and stuff like that. And I think I just, saw stuff on YouTube really. And then I kind of saw stuff on Facebook and started seeing these basic concepts and started noticing that there was a pretty big following and a pretty big community of people on Instagram that do that. And if I have to kind of boil it down to why it is that I do it, I think there's certain aspects of it that I can identify specifically being, first of all, it's kind of just like it's almost cathartic. It's therapeutic in the sense of like it's a tactile project for me to get into, something for me to kind of like physically work with, and given that it's really really small, kind of gets me into this certain concentration, the certain flow, if you will, this certain type of I don't know, just sort of being zoned in completely on one task. And when I'm in that place, it's similar to most type of arts that I've experienced or had experience with. It's anything and everything that's going on up in here is totally out the window, and I can completely focus on what's happening in that moment.
Yeah.
Another thing about it too is, in therapy, there's this acronym called SMART, and it's it's a way of like setting goals. So SMART goals is like setting specific, measurable, attainable, reachable, and time-oriented goals, right? So specific being like, I'll see something that I like, or something that I haven't done before, and it's like a challenge, right? And it's measurable in that I can see my progress going throughout it. Attainable because I've seen other people do it, because I see myself growing in it. And kind of in essence is what it is that like it's a goal that I can set for myself and that I can reach in sometimes a short period of time, or sometimes it'll even take a couple months, but nonetheless it's not something that's like overwhelming to the point that's like I want to establish. It's not like a 5-year plan where I'm like I want to get this here, or I want to like have like earned this degree. It's something that I'm like, I want to do this, and I can see the growth and the progress throughout the process and actually get there. And that to me is like the biggest draw to it. The fact that I can also focus on photography and kind of use that as a way to sort of display the end results to the community is just a kind of the icing on the cake, if you will. So those are the things that keep me drawn to it. Yeah.
I got 2 responses to that. First of all, while you're talking, I noticed your Beavis and Butthead shirt, and that's like making my life right now. I love it.
They're meditating Beavis and Buttheads.
I know, I love it. I'm all into the chakras and Beavis and okay, like it's blowing my mind. Second of all, I noticed you said earlier that you actually, so you were self-taught through social media then, you would predominantly say.
You mean in regards to like the
in
way
YouTube or Instagram? So when you looked at other people, you used them as like a jumping off point when you initially started?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like with a lot of arts, or even with like, I mentioned music as well. It's like you see it or you hear it and you just try to replicate it, and it's cool too. And I'm really excited to have some of the guys that are on here on the show tonight, because it's like,
Yeah, how did you meet them, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, totally. And I was just going to say, at some point, like along the way, when you see something and you're like, wait, how does that happen? It's like you have to ask questions, and then that gets you involved in meeting these people. And so to answer your question is how I met these guys. A lot of them was just, some of them I met like earlier on. In fact, I think with Harold, I met him like probably within like the first month or so that I started doing this, or at least when I got on Instagram, and we sort of just been in touch ever since. And I think Nathan Jupster not too far along after that, and Kyle, I think if I'm not mistaken, you can ask him. I think we kind of started roughly around the same time. But it's just sort of throughout the process in general with the community, but these guys in particular, I would say all of them like relatively early on within the first couple of months. And sort of just periodically stay in touch here and there, some more so than others, but we all, and it's cool too, because like I think at some point, like I realized that like we all sort of socialize with each other and communicate with each other. So it's like, yeah, it's a cool, tight-knit community. Yeah.
I bet it's probably cool to watch each other grow too, if they started out right at the same time as you did, to watch kind of how their builds and stuff have like matured and gotten better, and how they've like really evolved themselves. That's got to be really interesting for all of you guys if you all started around the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So outside of those coil builders, the ones that we're having in our panel tonight, and guys, we're going to have, let's see, it's Kyle and Nathan, Harold and Brent, and they're coming on a little bit later, you guys. But what other coil builders do you admire, and why? Do you have any other people that you want to give like a shout out to that are particularly unique in the way that they build?
Yeah, totally. You know, first guy comes to mind is Space Coils, guy Daniel, this awesome dude. Dirty Coils, Dave. These are all dudes that are on the Team Massive builds. Amadeus builds, Dimitri. And then guys kind of outside that circle too. There's a guy Neil named Nesquable. He's an awesome builder, and those are all guys that kind of got me like inspired building right away. But what's cool about that too is you talk about that growth that sort of happens like in that community, or like in that kind of the conversations between us and throughout the relationships. And a lot of these guys have like combined not only the coil building thing with like a lot more emphasis on photography too. Yeah. So a lot of these guys have like continued to kind of push the limits in other areas and whatnot. And there was another guy that his name was off_world. That was, he's just an amazing dude. I don't think he's currently doing his thing anymore, but he was definitely one of the first guys that I saw where it's like his pictures were just super dramatic, and just really like almost, I don't know, they just totally jumped out at me. And
it's raw.
yeah. Another guy I'll mention, because I can go on forever, of course, is Skinny's for sure. A guy named Ed, an awesome dude. A guy named Stagger Tunes, really cool. But also this guy named Greg Stevens, which was a guy that was around from, that I noticed from like the very get-go, just guys that were sort of just top of the game and remain top of the game. And super cool to be able to have those guys on tonight too. And, just to even be on the same stream as those guys, it's cool to have gotten that motivation from that, and to be able to talk with these people, and to also kind of give back to the community in the way that people gave to me.
Absolutely. And, all you viewers out there, like I said, Alen was a huge part of roping everybody together for this panel. So kudos, Alen. Thank you for pulling, really for helping organize this. I think it's going to be really informational for everyone who's watching. I've already, just from going back and forth with these guys, they seem like a really great crowd. So I'm really excited to kind of chat with them tonight, and I'm sure everybody else is. So question, Alan, we've talked about, why you build, kind of how you got into it, how you met these other builders. What are aspects of the coil building process that you feel are maybe misunderstood by people?
Misunderstood. I think maybe there's always a question of like, at what point is it functional, and at what point is it, more just art, and I think that's a pretty decent question. And in fact, I'd love to, if there was somebody that had their input for that as well. But I think the answer is both, really. Yeah. So I mean, at some point it sort of just gets into what just looks really cool, and like, certain type of alloys, certain type of metals like color up really nice, so it's like, in some sense, like you look at something like that, and it's not really like about like, that doesn't make it taste better, that doesn't make it perform better, but it sure as hell looks cool. But that's not that, like, there's other types of coils and whatnot that are also look aesthetically pleasing, but their main essence is function, so one misunderstanding. And I don't know, that's a good question, but that's what I got for now on it.
Well, we actually had Harold pop in a second ago. I have my list in front of me. How's it going, dude?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So Harold, thanks for coming on the show. I'm here with Alen right here, and we were just talking about coil building as a process and everything, and he's really been hyping you guys up. So I'm excited to chat with you guys. Harold, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? How you got into vaping, how you got into building, and what inspires you in the art of coil making?
Let's see. I started, I believe, in 2000. When did I start? 2015? Yeah.
Wow.
January 2015. Before that, I was smoking 2-pack of American Spirits a day. And
Two-packer, huh?
yeah, 2-pack American Spirit Yellows. Yeah, I just started vaping. I started out with a little Kanger EVOD starter kit with 18 milligram.
Ooh.
And took me about 4 days to get completely off cigarettes.
Wow.
And then I was just hooked, and I got a 50-watt Sigelli like a month later. And then I started watching YouTube videos. But the first thing I was rebuilding was the little coil heads for the Kanger Tech, the Kanger mini tank, right?
Yeah.
I was trying to rebuild those coil heads, which is kind of pointless because they're cheap. You know, you get like a 5-pack for like $14. But I thought it was like, so I sit there and try to rebuild those things. And then I didn't even know anything about, I didn't do any social media. So I had no idea about IG and people building coils and taking photos of it and posting it. Anyways, so Serge.
That's enough.
So anyways,
I want to be on the live show too.
Yeah, right. No, so it was about, I don't know, maybe like 8 months like that, and people kept telling me, "Man, you should get an IG account. You should look at it." It's like, man, I don't do social media. I'm not going to do it. So I would I'd sit at the vape shop and people would show me stuff on IG. I was like, oh, it's awesome. And I would just take their phones and start scrolling through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just eventually I gave in and I got an IG. And I just started building. I would just watch tutorials, Twisted Messes tutorials, and then Squid Dude Art of Vaping, his channel.
Boy, he had a couple.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. Just whatever I could. I'd watch whatever. Yeah.
It sounds like you both used YouTube a lot then. Alen was telling me that that's predominantly Instagram and YouTube was how he learned as well.
Yeah, that was it. And then it just, I had time. It was the one thing I had time for. And I would just build coils and then, just do the cell phone pics. And then over time, it just evolved more into just photography now. So now if I sit down to build, I actually build with a shot in mind. Whereas before I would just build and just to build. So I'm always thinking about the picture now. So it's kind of changed for me over the years.
That's cool. And it sounds like, and Alen was telling you, it sounds like you guys are always evolving. And speaking of evolving, Alen said that you're a real whiz when it comes to the history of coils and kind of going where they used to be.
Well, I mean, some things, but like I've actually recently been going further back, just trying to find stuff, talking with people. But I mean, not really. I think it's important to know like where certain concepts came from or variations. So I mean, that's about it. If we're in a chat or something and a certain build gets brought up, like I'll just say, "Hey, do you know who did the first blah blah blah?" I mean, I think it's good because it's a short history, and I think it's one that shouldn't be lost. I mean, really, coil building hasn't been around that long, and then. I don't know. I think it's important to know where certain concepts came from.
I'm sure when it comes to safety and technique and all that stuff, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And Alen, I mean, I'm sorry, not Alen. Harold, do you mind if I pull up your Instagram real quick? Actually, handle. So I'm going to pull it up on screen for all of you guys so you guys can see his Instagram and some of his builds and stuff. We are going to scroll down so you guys get a good look at it and then back up so that you can see the actual handle. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow him on Instagram, there's his handle, you guys. If you want to go look at his art and his work, go ahead. That's his handle right there. So can you tell us a little bit about the community aspect of coil building? Alen was saying, how you guys had met through all kind of starting around the same time relatively, and how it kind of builds on itself. And now you guys are this whole little network. Can you tell me about what that's been like for you?
It's been amazing. I mean, I met a lot of great people through it that have become friends, and it's pretty tight knit and it's small. So with that, it's everybody supports each other. There's drama, but it kind of comes and goes. It gets squashed, but it's just it's a small community. So, but it's definitely one that tries to help each other out, I would think. And there's a lot of new people. I try to keep up. I usually if a coil builder follows me, I always try to follow back. If I don't, I'm probably sleeping. I missed it. I missed the notification. But
Same.
yeah. So they're like, "Why didn't you follow me back? I was probably sleeping."
Yeah.
But I usually post late, so then I'll post before I go to bed, and the next thing I know, I'll wake up and there's notifications of this, and I'll miss stuff. But
Do you post late on purpose for any reason, or is that just like when you do it, sort of
no,
thing?
you know what I do? I used to wait for like that prime time, and now it's just whenever I shoot and I'm done, I just post. It doesn't matter what time. So usually it typically is late. So I'll finish something up. I'm like, oh, I gotta go to bed. I'll just post it, go to sleep, and then I'll.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't wait. I don't know. I don't know if it matters. Maybe it does.
Nowadays.
Yeah, I don't think it matters anymore. I think it did before. But
yeah, that kind of gets into that topic of like the algorithm of Instagram and like the approach of Instagram where you're trying to like your intention is to like get the numbers, right? And I know that I have talked about that before, Harold, where it's just like, what's the main purpose behind it? And like,
well,
for me personally, I can only speak from my experience, but it's like when it gets to the point that the emphasis is more on like trying to find the right times to post and like how am I going to get those numbers and like focusing on that, then it's like, to me it's just less fun, so.
No, definitely. Like it's you start to get obsessed about the numbers, and then you have to stop and say like, why do I do this? And for me, it's the process. Whether like the process of making anything for me is kind of the same. So it's more photography lately, but I don't know. I don't think I don't want to get caught up in that. That's why I just don't pay attention to like what time it is when I post. Like I don't want it to be about that, so I just stopped.
That's awesome. I think in the current world that we live in, that's such a focus for most people that it's good that you can kind of get back to why you actually love it.
Yeah.
And we have a question for you actually from one of the members of the live chat from Spaced Coils, aka What is your favorite coil, Harold?
My favorite coil, I would say to make or to vape. Vaping, as far as vaping, it's usually I like helix variations with mixed alloy just because I like the way they photograph. As far as vaping, it's always simple stuff, like just kind of intricate coils are nice to shoot and to look at, but most of them vape terribly. So a 4.4 SFC, even fused Claptons are a good vape. Aliens, but I usually keep it simple. Usually, if it's an intricate coil and it's like, oh, it looks cool, like if somebody asks me for it, I'll just give it to them.
We have someone in the chat named Jace that said, "I bet you he says fused Clapton as his answer."
They vape awesome.
And Philip Skillern says, "So true, Jace." So I guess they know your preferences.
Yeah. I don't vape the silly stuff. I just like to shoot it. But,
Gotcha. So that's interesting. So you say that you kind of started out doing like the phone, the phone pictures and stuff, and now you've gotten more into photography. So that's actually kind of like fostered your passion for photography.
Yeah, it's pretty much all just been photography. I always, and there's less builds, and I always try to get back to it, but it just never, I'll still do it, but if I fail a build, it's going to be at least a month before I sit down to try it again. So it's mostly just I let things happen organically. So it's a thing where like, hey, it just so happens I'm shooting more product than I am building coils. But it'll always be there. It's always something I can sit down and do when I have time or feel like it, or make time. It's more making time for it, I think.
Yeah. But it's good that you're not super concerned with the social aspect of it. I mean, I work my whole job is social media, and I've done the math. You know, I've gone to the sites like, what are the times that are best for posting on certain days? And they say there's an
When
algorithm.
you figure it out, let me know, because I don't know.
They say there's an algorithm, but they lie, because there have been times where I've gone like so far off of, like, I've done like a 4 a.m. post just to test it, and it gets like 400 likes versus when I posted at 2 p.m. that got like 58, and I'm like, what? So, and it's at 4 a.m. So there's no algorithm. Like, everybody's trying to figure it out. I've yet to find it in the whole time that I've been working social media.
Yeah, I stopped.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good that there are people out there who are less concerned with numbers and more concerned about why they're actually doing it. I think that shows,
well, that's important.
especially work. So
I don't know what else I'd do. Like, I always think, oh, what would I do if I didn't do this? And I have no idea. I don't know. I probably would just work all the time, and that didn't really work out, because then that made me sick, just working too much. So.
And now it sounds like it's. Do you find, because Alen was telling us earlier that it's very therapeutic for him? He kind of like gets in the zone. Would you think that it's equally as therapeutic for you?
Yep. Yes, definitely.
Because you're able to block everything else out and just focus on one task. Okay.
Exactly that, or just the process of making anything, I think, you know.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, it's like the coils is one aspect of it too, and like, you know, Harold, I know, like, as you mentioned, you focus a lot on like photography, and it's kind of like developed into whatever, and a lot of like product stuff lately. But in talking about like the coil stuff, you know, like, I notice a lot lately within the past couple of months, it's like, again, that continual growth where it's like now a lot of focus on macro or whatever. So it's like within the niche, there are other smaller niches that I find.
Oh yeah.
You can continue
subgroups within groups.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's so cool that, like, Harold, I see you now like putting a lot of that same drive and like that want, desire to grow, but like just focusing on just like the macro stuff. And
well, that's just, geez. I mean, I oh my God, yeah, the macro stuff. Just alone, macro stuff can just, it's just so time consuming. and you know, it's something that it's hard, and I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to get better at it, and it's frustrating. But I mean, when you get one, it's not. Oh, it's totally worth it. I mean, it is frustrating though. And that's probably the hardest thing to shoot.
Twisting and, you know, finger maneuver. I mean, just having to be so focused on something, especially small too. That's got to be like, oh, you know what? We actually got 2 questions in the live chat for you guys. Well, a question for both of you. Texas Vapor Babe wants to know, Canthal or NI80 preferred for both builders?
I actually like mixed alloy. Lately, I build all to Canthal and nichrome and a little bit of stainless. Not too heavy on the stainless. I think all stainless steel builds are a little harsh, I think, after a while in the throat. But I think mixed is the way to go. That's what I like. So whether it's like, you know, if it's something basic, I'll you know, it's like nichrome cores and maybe a Canthal fuse, or mixing it up is nice for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Alen?
I think like generally what I'll try to do is like, the Canthal cores and the nichrome outside or whatever. But if I was gonna have to pick one over the other, I would say nichrome for the sake of the functionality, because like the ramp up time I find is a little bit more a little bit faster. It kind of gives me the performance that I want. But that's not to say that you can't achieve that like with Canthal. You know what I mean? I think it's all about like the way that you set it up and your device and all that. But I've heard people say like flavor off of Canthal is they don't like that flavor there. But I've also heard
people prefer it too.
Yeah, totally. And I was just gonna say, you know, it's like I've heard people say the same thing about N80 and stainless steel as well. So I think it's all totally subjective. But for me personally, I would say go with what Harold said, either the mix, which is I've been doing Canthal and nichrome, or just straight nichrome, which is the NI80.
Awesome. Thank you. So Texas Vapor Babe, you got your answers. And all of you guys out there in the chat, feel free to ask more questions. These are our coil experts, and you guys were the ones that said you wanted a coil show. So ask your questions, ask away. We've got people who are ready to answer. You know, and question for you guys, for the people out there who maybe aren't super familiar with building in general. If I'm if I'm a person who's intimidated to begin building coils for my own use, what would you guys recommend is the best way for me to get started? YouTube or reaching out to other builders? What would be the best recommendation for a
lately, catching a builder's live feed, I think is probably the best, because like they'll sit there and they'll build, they'll tell you what they're building, you actually get to see what they're doing, and they'll explain what they're doing. Lately, I would say that.
Okay.
But I mean, if it's something you need to reference, you have to watch over and over again. Of course, like probably YouTube, or sometimes the live, they'll save it and you can go back and watch it. But I think it's real interesting watching it live on IG.
Yeah, that way you can kind of like interact too and ask the specific questions and whatnot. I didn't know about that, but that's definitely like, and that's, I think, a relatively recent addition to Instagram where they started doing those live videos, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that live in general across social media has helped a lot of people in the sense of asking questions in live time. Oh my God, what is his name or her name?
Serge.
Yeah.
Oh, hi Serge.
Special guest.
You made it onto eJuice's live. Good for you.
You did it, buddy. You did it.
It's all about you, Serge. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So, we actually have another question for you guys from Technical. Do either of you use Ni200 as cores? In which coil build do you suggest using an Ni200 as a core, and which metal as a wrap?
Go ahead, Alen.
Ni200 I haven't messed with. Ni90 I have, and I know that the resistance is really low. So I don't mess around with it that much. I think from what I've seen, and this is just like my observation, is a lot of that is used for the performance aspect. So I would almost think that like for somebody that's into more of like the tricking or like the cloud stuff, like that might be more of you might get more of a response from that crowd. But for me, like I've seen guys that use N90, but I guess what I would say is that there's been a push lately into more of like single coil RDAs, and I think in that sense, like focusing on functionality, there's guys that still, even though it kind of goes against the grain or against the intention, in my opinion, a little bit, is that like guys that want to use those single coil RDAs that have a really reduced chamber to them, and that is kind of gets more of that condensed, more flavor focused experience. They're using N90 to try to keep the resistance really, really low and to kind of get that functionality where it's like instant ramp up in a really, a lot of vapor and like one small pull, So as far as mixing N90 and anything above that, like I personally never messed with N200, but N90 stuff, I think I have like a couple spools, but I don't touch them all that often. So
I see some people in the live chat saying that anything like that the 200 is a little excessive. So it sounds like there's a general air of agreement. Yeah. I'm seeing like N80 all day, but 80s, 90s in the chat. But what about you, Harold?
I'm pretty much just N80 and Canthal K1 and stainless. That's all I really mess with.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything in regards to it, like coloring any better or any like advantage in terms of aesthetics or anything like that. So that
maybe I'll try it out. Yeah, I'm all about the colors.
It's worth a test, right?
I like pretty colors.
Yeah.
So you guys, we're about to have Nathan pop in another minute or two, so we have time for probably another question or two. So guys in the chat, if you have any more questions for Harold, now is the time to ask them. Don't forget, we've got that sale going on and that giveaway going on. The link's below. You must be present at 7:45 when we pull the winner in order to have it validated, your entry. So, and Harold's doing his ninja moves. So if any of you guys
do I leave or do I stay?
Questions, besides if they can send you coils, because Andreas wants to know if you can send him coils. But if any of you guys have any questions for Harold in the meantime, feel free to ask right before we have Nathan popping on. Harold, I have one more question to ask you in the interim.
Okay.
So you said you started in 2015 and you started kind of like messing with the Kanger coils and everything. How would you say the vape industry in general has changed from when you started to today?
The industry?
Yeah. Or I mean, just in general from what you, okay, never mind. We had a question in the live chat, but I'll save that for another minute.
Oh, how has it changed? I mean, it changes so quick. I mean, as far as products, it's just definitely it changed. It seems like every 4 months, 6 months, it's something new. Not to be negative, it just seems tense. you know? It's like waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of thing ever since the August 8th stuff. But I mean, as far as the people in the community sticking together and supporting each other, that hasn't changed.
So you'd say it's really the community aspect that's stayed consistent or grown since then?
Yeah, I mean, that's all we really have in the end is each other. I mean, I think, and the friends that, the friendships we've made. I mean, but yeah, it seems kind of. Oh,
here we go. We got Nathan
right.
beeping in. Harold, do you have anything you'd like to say in closing to our audience right now?
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thanks for watching. Do I leave? I have to leave, right?
Yeah, I think we can only support 3 people at a time.
Yeah.
I'm meeting, but
I was going to stay and make fun of Nathan.
Questions? Do you have an email that people can reach you at? So if they have any more questions for you or they're interested in getting
you just DM me on IG. It's probably the easiest way. Yeah, I'll check that more in my emails.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Harold. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, be sure to check out his handle. Like I said, if you want to rewind about 10 minutes ago, there it is on IG, and you guys can DM him if you're interested in one of his coils.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Harold.
Thank you.
And hello, Nathan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. How are you? And thank you for popping in so seamlessly, perfectly on time.
Oh, good. I was watching beforehand, just so I was like, oh, Nathan's going to pop in about 1 minute. I'm like, all right, my time to go now.
Awesome.
I'm doing good.
Perfect. Good. Nathan, before I get into our segment, I'm going to do a little reminder for some of our viewers right now. We've got a sale and a giveaway going on, and then we'll get into our questions. Sure. For all of you guys who are out there, I'm going to reiterate, we've got a giveaway going on. Link is in the description below. Be sure to check that out. We will be drawing the winner at 7:35. You guys must be present in the live chat, or your entry will be invalidated so that we can give all the people in the live chat a chance to win. We also have a Memorial Day pre-sale going on right now, 1 day only, 25% off on all of our e-juice, $15 minimum spend. Link is in the description below. And yeah, so guys, be sure to check those things out. And remember that ejuices.com live is brought to you by ejuices.com. We've got over 2,200 brands, hardware, DIY supplies, and more. So Nathan, let's get into it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into creating these intricate coils?
Sure. So my name is Nathan. I'm 25, live in Tucson, Arizona. Getting into coil building started basically, I actually never smoked cigarettes before. I basically just started with smoking hookah. I liked the vapor and the tricks that I could do with it. And I always, yeah, you too?
I'm about to turn 20. I'm same boat as you, loved hookah, all that stuff. So,
so I basically got into it because I like doing miniature stuff with my hands. Like I used to make those little tech decks out of wood. I just like to work with my hands. I'm an artist. And I just saw my friend's girlfriend vaping. I'm like, oh, what's that? So I got interested, went to the vape shop, picked up my first RDA and mod, and the guy was like, okay, you're gonna want to start to learn how to make coils. I'm like, oh God, this is nervous. I don't know. And then it just kind of came naturally after watching YouTube videos, looking at Instagram, looking at Harold and Alen and Twisted Messes and Squid Dude, all those big guys, big names. And it just became a hobby for me, basically.
That's what a lot of both Alen and Harold said, that they learned through YouTube and Instagram. So this seems to be kind of like across the board that so far, at least, how you guys really got into it and self-taught.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like social media was like a big segue into that, especially. So that's awesome. And when you're building a coil, are you thinking more about like aesthetics or functionality of the coil?
It's kind of both. I don't try to make something that's going to be too crazy, too wild, to where it won't fit if you put the top cap on, or it won't look good, or it'll have shorts in it. I try to be as functional as possible with a little bit of aspect of aesthetics in mind, just because I am a photographer and I do take pictures of them.
And you know, that's another thing that Alan and Harold both mentioned, that they really got into photography when they started doing this. Were you into photography prior to this, or did this really get you into the photography game as well?
No, I was into photography. So I used to take like landscape pictures and I used to be into like filming skateboarding a bit. So the camera I have now actually was a camera to film skateboarding. And as I kind of ventured away from that, it actually worked out pretty well with an addition of lenses and additions and accessories that I could take pictures of these coils.
That's awesome. And so what is your favorite build that you've done so far?
It probably has to be a multi-core staggered fuse Clapton. It's my most comfortable build, and it's very aesthetically pleasing as well. And I've just gotten to love the vapor and the flavor off of it, as it totally outdoes any round wire or simple build.
Really? How so?
Just the depth of the coil itself. There's a lot of grooves and there's a lot of nooks and crannies where juice can get trapped and expel vapor at a like very quick rate, and it just kind of spits juice a little bit, so you kind of taste it more a little bit. But yeah, it's just the best that I have come across.
And speaking of your builds, do you mind if we actually pull up your Instagram for everyone who's watching right now so they can see your handle and your work if they want to follow you?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
So guys out there in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and pull up his Instagram so you guys can see his work and you can see his handle. Make sure that if you're interested in getting it and having him design anything for you, if you just want to check it out, because I know I just look at coils all day, like just because I think they're pretty. Guys, check it out, and we'll scroll down so that you can see some of those builds, and then we'll scroll up so that you guys can see that handle, and be sure to follow him. So Nathan, I want to know, are there any tools or like hardware that you use when you're building a coil and RDA, like special tools and safety precautions that you have to take when doing something like that with that kind of equipment?
So when I started out building, all I had was my girlfriend's dining room table, a drill, and a actually that's pretty much it. I had a drill and a table, and I started building coils without anything attaching the coil so it spins more freely. And I did that for about a year or two. Now I have a flexible shaft hooked up to my wall with a foot pedal and a hand dial. And then I have a track on my table. My table's right over there, but I'm still packing. I just moved. And I have a bunch of fishing swivels on the other end to keep the core tight. So I can wrap wire around it very, very quickly and efficiently. Let's see what else. I mean,
what an upgrade.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely an investment because that equipment is a lot of money, but it definitely helps build coils a lot faster and more efficient.
That's awesome. So you really went from what'd you say? It was a drill and a table.
And a dining room table.
Legit setup.
Yeah.
See, like I'm actually curious about kind of like how you guys like evolved. Like Alan, I actually have never heard how you evolved, what your original setup was versus like the cool setup you've got going on right now.
Yeah.
Was it the same thing for you, a drill and a table, or was it?
Yeah, when Nathan said that, I was totally like, that's exactly how I started. Like, I think I deleted some of the stuff really early in my account, but I kept this one picture of that. It's like, you can see over the course of, I think it was like 3 weeks, I took a picture every week just to like show like this dining room table that had started with literally, it was a bottle of ginger beer. I started with fishing swivels. I know a lot of guys did like the freehand stuff like Nathan was talking about. But I had like, it was a big thing that I kept a bunch of change in, which was heavy enough, with a tie wrap on it and a fishing swivel. And then my drill on the other side. And I think I had one spool of 36 gauge and one spool of 26 gauge. And
wow.
And then in that picture, it's like a 3-layer picture. You can see that like from there, it started like these little pieces started getting added on, more spools and like tape and glue and just different things I was experimenting with. And like eventually literally like this table was just covered in just random building accessories and stuff like that. So
humble beginnings, and now you guys are pros and experts at it. And speaking of which, all of you guys out there in the live chat, if you have any questions for Nathan, be sure to drop them in the chat for us. So question for both of you guys out of the live chat. Wretched774 says, I've heard of ceramic coils being built. Is there any truth to that?
I have actually seen a ceramic coil. They usually aren't in the shape of a coil. I've seen, it's called like a ceramic donut. So it has, I think it's probably some resistance wire that leads up to this like wafer, like flat donut that just heats up ceramic, and you just kind of I don't know if you would add cotton or just have that deep in a well, like heating up liquid that's in a well. But as far as ceramic coils, I've only seen that donut wafer type thing.
Yeah, which seems like it might not be as functional as.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Never tried it.
I've never seen anybody like work it into like the type of like coils that I do myself, and I see some other guys doing. I've never really seen anybody like focus on that, and I would be really excited to, in fact, and now I'm kind of excited about it. But I mean, I've
a new challenge for you guys, right?
Oh, yeah. But now that Nathan mentions it, I've actually never like seen one myself, but I'm sure if I were to rip one apart, it would be exactly what Nathan is describing, or very similar to it. But as far as like functionality of it, I can say that for me, when I've thinking back to it now, and I actually have a pod type device that uses ceramic coils, and I get really great flavor off of it. So
okay. So it is possible then.
Yeah. I mean, just like the Jabo notch coil, I feel like it kind of works in the same way. It's just kind of faceted to two like legs of resistance wire, and then that element at the end just heats up. Whether it be like a tube of stainless steel, like the notch coil, or a piece of ceramic. So
Big Daddy wants to know, has anybody tried a golden coil before?
I'm not sure that's too safe.
Yeah. So probably not for precautions.
For aesthetics, I've seen it visually, but I've never seen anybody using one, and I'm happy to say that that's the case.
And use, yeah. So Nathan, I've asked Harold and Alen this, but I'd love to hear from you. How did you end up meeting all the guys in this panel? How did you end up meeting Alen? I mean, how did you guys run into each other? Was it through Instagram and YouTube and the coil building community? Did you reach out to them, or?
It basically was just through Instagram. I actually haven't met any of these people that are in the stream right now, but I definitely have talked to all of them, whether it be in our sponsored group chats or just Instagram. As we progress, we ask questions. We see, oh, this builder did this coil, I want to try. Hey, bro, how did you do it? It just kind of evolves like that.
That's awesome.
And I mean, eventually I'll probably see him at some shows that are happening in the US somewhere, and or Canada. I know Kyle, Kyle is from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, eventually I run into him in real life.
Yeah.
That's cool though, that you guys, social media didn't just help you guys kind of learn how to build, but it connected you guys. Like, it's like you all have seemed super comfortable with each other, but it's crazy that you guys have never like really met in real life before. That's like insane to me, that it's like you guys have this like bond in this community, even through that.
Like Nathan said though, it's like I've met Harold in person, and I think it's just like a matter of time before I meet like Kyle and I meet Nathan, you know what I mean? And it's cool too, because as you were talking about that, Nathan, I totally thought about like the first time I met Harold, it was like probably like even like less than a year before I actually met him in person. When I met him, it was totally just super casual and just like kind of like exactly, you know what I mean? So yeah, cool.
Before you guys actually like were part of your whole community and everything. That's awesome.
It definitely helps that we have the same hobbies, so it's easy to find something to talk about. Even if you're shy, you can just go, oh, hey, so how'd you do that build? And it just branches from there.
Seriously, I bet. And then on here, now you guys are all chatting on the live show, right? Exchanging stories and stuff. It's crazy how it progresses. So Nathan, I would also like to know, I kind of want to backtrack because I've noticed that everybody, and you seem to be the first person to say that you were already really into photography prior to getting into coil building and stuff. We noticed that you have some really high quality photos. So can you tell us a little bit about the photography aspect of coil building and how you get those shots and like the work that goes on behind that?
Sure. You don't even need a crazy camera like a DSLR to do this photography. You can have an iPhone, you can have paper towels, and you can have a table, and then just something to put your coils or your devices on to shoot it. I do have like this room right here. This is my studio for coil building and photography. We have I have a table, like a bunch of lights. I do have a powerful camera, as I said before, as it was shooting skateboarding photography. There's also machines that auto focus stack your pictures. So you put your camera on, you set the ramifications, you hit go, you leave the room. When you come back, your coil shot is taken, and all like 100, 200 pictures for you to combine is right there. And I just recently, not recently, but soon after I started taking pictures of coil, focus stacking. That's when you take a picture at the very front focal point and all the pictures in between until it is out of focus. And
Wow.
combining all of those photos makes for a very crisp photo. It gets every detail, and there's nothing out of focus, and really makes your shot look that much better.
So is it like a layering thing then, basically?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yep.
Very cool. So that's how you guys get all the colors and the meshes and the tones and like all the different sheens, or like is it just overall the layering just makes a more crisp picture in general?
It's just makes it a crisp picture, basically. There's nothing to be left to the imagination. I know that's something that is sought after, but I mean, it looks a lot better in a lot of people's eyes.
I definitely, and I say, like, if you guys didn't see it a few minutes ago, we posted his Instagram up, but it speaks for itself, you guys. Those photos are amazing quality. So kudos to you for those, because they're awesome. You guys both have like very impressive accounts. And I'm always linking up. So I gotta recommend both of you guys a lot, because whenever I have a coil, I always end up, because Alan's like one of the only coil builders I know. So I always end up like slipping his Instagram tag when people ask me about coils, but I got to give yours out because those are some like top-notch photos.
I'm super stoked that you brought up the stacking thing too, because I mean, like both in like the last stream and in this one today, like I can't believe it just hasn't been mentioned until you brought it up, because to me that's like such an essential part of like at least the photography aspect of typical coil shots and whatnot. And as you were talking about it, I was thinking of like just all the minute little adjustments and all these different modifications and stuff. And it's like just that part of the process is like there's so much to look into and so much to mess around with. And it's like that's the kind of stuff that I continue to mess around with. I think after a certain point, like I'm like, okay, this is generally going to kind of get me this sort of result, or this is like if I'm going for something that has a little bit more of a wide depth of field, then I'm going to do this, or if I'm going to be this close, I'm going to do this or whatever. But I mean, like focus stacking is such a huge part of it. So I'm really happy you brought that up. And I would definitely say that anybody who's interested in the photography aspect of coil building, it's like that's definitely go for the focus stacking for sure, or it will not be too long before you inevitably get there. So.
And you don't need
that's great that we brought it up, that they know now, because I didn't even know that. So
yeah. And you don't actually need a crazy camera. Like I said, you can focus stack with your iPhone. I know that there's a coil builder out there, Stagger Tunes. His name is Patrick. He still photo stacks with an iPhone, and his pictures are just as good, if not better, than mine. And it's amazing how people can go so far with just a cell phone and do photos like that.
That's amazing. I think when you can, if you can find a way to manipulate an iPhone to make it look professional, that's some next level stuff.
Right.
We have another question for you guys in the live chat. Joshua Bobble wants to know, and I'm sure that it's going to be 50-50 on this, but are these fancy coils functional? So some of them, I'm going to throw out a guess that some of them are and some of them aren't.
Yes. Most of them are. Some of them aren't. There's a coil builder, Daniel, who also lives in Canada. His name is Spaced Coils. He
Oh,
does.
he's on here. He's in the chat.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, here you go, man. Here's a shout out to you. He does builds that are he calls unvapable builds. He has like extension wires that it basically just looks like scaffolding.
Totally.
It's just amazing to look at him. But most of the coils that are out right now are definitely functional.
That's awesome. Thank you, Harold. We just had Kyle beep in. So is there anything you'd like to say to our audience in closing before you have to log off and we go on to Kyle's segment?
No, just thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to give my input and feedback and to answer all these questions for you.
Awesome. And should people DM you on Instagram if they're interested in contacting you regarding a build, or what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, Instagram DMs. I answer everyone. I would love to give any type of feedback I can. I'll answer all your questions, whatever you need.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Thank you so much for coming on our show. And thank you all the guys in the audience who had amazing questions for Nathan. We'll be reaching out, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in this chat who have questions for you and be DMing you on Instagram. So
okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. And welcome, Kyle. Hello. Welcome onto our show. Can you hear us? I don't think he can hear us.
I don't think so. Not quite.
Let's see if he can adjust it. In the meantime, guys, while Kyle is doing that, I'm actually going to go ahead and throw up his Instagram for you guys. So while he's fixing that, if we can throw up Kyle's Instagram on the page, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys his handle and his work so that later, if you guys want to contact him regarding his builds, you'll be able to do that. So I'm going to throw his Instagram up real quick for you guys. Kyle, let us know if you can hear us. I don't think he can hear us.
No, I don't think so. I think there's a way to turn on the mic in the software, but
let's see if he can find out. While he's figuring that out, you guys, I'm going to reiterate that we've got a giveaway going on tonight. We have it linked in the description. We are going to be drawing the giveaway winner at 7:35 p.m. So make sure to be in the live chat and say, I'm here at 7:35 so that we can make sure that your entry is validated and everything. And on top of that, we are also having a sale today, you guys. It's a Memorial Day pre-sale, so make sure to check that out. Kyle, can you hear us?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome, Kyle. While you were fixing it, I went ahead and threw up your Instagram for everyone so that they have your handle, checked out your coils and everything so that they could see your work. And if they're interested in DMing you after the show, just so that they have that information. So welcome, Kyle. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I have no idea what I'm doing.
So Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into coil building?
So I guess it was summer 2015. Just a friend of mine, he basically explained to me the rebuildable aspect of it, and that every single build produces a different flavor in that. And I said, like, what? You can do what? So then I really just went on YouTube and started looking at Twisted Messes and Squid Dude and stuff, and it progressed from there.
Oh, we got Harold back on. What's up, Harold? We got Harold back on. What's up, Harold? Can you see us? Oh, he just beeped in to make faces at you. He's gone now. He just surprised us for 50 seconds.
Very much the nature of Harold.
It was a surprise. It was a guest appearance. So Kyle, so you actually started right around the same time as Harold, who told us that he started around 2015 then.
Yes, correct.
And so your friends showed you and you were like, you can do this cool thing. And were you already kind of like dexterous and techie to begin with, or did this kind of lead you down that road?
Yeah, I've always been I've always liked doing stuff with my hands more than, yeah, exactly. So.
Very cool. So for you, I would like to ask, which custom coil designs seem to be most popular of yours in general?
I try to do everything. I try to do everything that I can so I don't get bored with it, essentially. It's very zen to me. Like if you have a rough day or something, if you just sit down and play with wire, even if the build doesn't come out, it's still, I don't know, it's very soothing to me, I guess you could say.
Yeah, Alen was just talking about that earlier. And actually, everybody we've had on so far has made a comment about how therapeutic it is, how kind of focusing in on one thing, it just kind of makes everything else go away. And that's a big stress relief. And so
Yeah.
you would agree with that then?
Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely. And so will you go over like the process of coil building for us as far as how you do it, from how do you start it? How do you conclude it? How long does it take on average from start to finish? On the basic ones, on not so much the really, really crazy ones that are all kind of custom, but
Yeah, so really I just use a drill and a swivel. How to come up with a build, I used to actually write stuff down. But now it's just I just reach in my box of wire, and the first spool I pull out, I just think, well, what am I going to do with this? And then pretty much go from there.
That's really cool. So you're kind of like forcing yourself to get creative by surprising yourself by whatever you pull out.
Exactly.
And did you have, so we were talking about OG setups, kind of like the original setups that everybody had. They're like, man, all I had was like a drill and a table. How has your setup progressed from when you started to now where you're a little bit more pro at that?
Oh, it's just the swivel is what really helps, keeps everything perfectly in sync. So that really was a game changer once I went to swivels for sure.
So did it tighten it, or how did it, what does the swivel do for our audience?
Like a fishing swivel, you can attach it to a wall or anything like that, and it just holds between the drill and the other end of the build, holds it perfectly in sync so it can spin perfectly, and not like if you didn't have a swivel, it would just be wobbling around all over the place, and you wouldn't be in control essentially.
So you have the swivel, right? So do you regularly build just like based off of your inspiration in the moment? Like while you're building, are you inspired, or is it more like you look at it, you say, okay, here's where I want to go with it, and then it's like an execution thing?
A little bit of both, just scrambling, or not scrambling, but like searching through Instagram. And if I see a build that I think looks cool, I screenshot it, and I have a big list of 100 and some photos to go through. If I ever don't have like an idea of what to do, I just scroll through that and find something that I could verify. I usually don't do the exact same thing that I see, but I do something similar in a different way.
And so I want to know, besides, because you mentioned earlier how therapeutic the coil building process for you, what would you say is the most therapeutic part of it for you? I mean, what's your favorite part of when you're in the zone and stuff?
It's just everything else goes away. Everything in your life and stuff like that. Like you don't think about stuff anymore. It's just you're focused on that. And like I was saying, even if you don't, even if you got the build done and it wraps terribly, it's just like, oh well, whatever. At least I don't know. It took me away for a little while. So.
And speaking of which, so how long would you say, or is it always different? How long does it take you to build a custom coil usually?
It depends. For the most part, an hour, 2 hours, essentially. I try to do stuff that's ridiculous, like.
So yeah, Alen mentioned that you have. Did you say that he was the one with the unvapable coils, or?
No, that was Daniel, a guy named.
Oh, Daniel. Okay, that's right. And Daniel's in the chat right now too.
Yeah, well, first of all, I totally relate with what you're talking about, Kyle, in terms of like always wanting to try and find something new to do. But like one of the reasons why I love Kyle's stuff is that it's like he really is like super versatile, and it's always like pushing the limit. So I would say like, if there was one guy that I would like recommend in terms of like variety and being, what's the word? It's kind of escaping me, but just having like a plethora of different things or whatever. It's like it's like, what can't you do, Kyle? That's my question. I really like. We're gonna figure it out, really.
Have you ever had like an exceptionally like hard build that you just tried to get through and it just really tested you, Kyle?
Well, I just started braiding there a little bit, and I have so much respect for those guys that can do that. Like it's I don't know if it's just because I'm not doing it right or something, but braiding is definitely the one thing that I would like to get into because it is fun, but it's just it's getting it down exactly.
I believe it. I've heard that that's a tricky one from other coil builders before too. So it sounds like that's a general echo. We actually have some questions from the live chat for you, Kyle. So the first one is from Space Coils, aka Daniel. What's your favorite build?
To build, or yeah, I guess
To
it's hard.
build.
I like doing all of them. Like essentially, like I like doing builds like Dan. Like I get inspiration from him because it's just
Oh, okay.
it's different. Like uh, all kinds of stuff. That's why I try to do helixes, staggers, unvapable builds. I try to just mix it all up and do it all essentially.
Awesome. And Joshua Baldwin wants to know, we're talking a lot about the coil, but does the deck you use matter at all?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Depends, yeah, on the posts. It depends because every single build you do, it could fit in different decks and stuff. So yeah, essentially the deck does matter to a point. Yeah.
Awesome. And so what about you, Alan? Do you have anything to throw into that as far as the deck?
I mean, yeah, it definitely does matter, and I think to like I've talked to other guys, and man, Daniel Space Coil is getting a lot of shout outs tonight. I know like his kind of, we've mentioned the sort of like unvapable thing, which if you can't quite get a picture of what that is, and that's a great reason to go check out his Instagram, Space Coils, and see what exactly that's about. But as far as like the different types of decks and stuff, it's like really instead of the build being the focus and then like the follow-up being like, all right, what RDA am I going to throw it in? I can really see in a lot of his stuff, and not just him but other people as well, like being focusing more on like what the RDA is and saying like, okay, now I want to build to that, you know. So I think you can find the focus on both, you know, but for me personally, I focus more on like what's the build and then think about what I'm going to throw it in later. But now I'm talking about it, I think it kind of goes back and forth lately. So
Awesome. And Kyle, I got a question for you. So in regards to earlier, you said that you predominantly learned through YouTube and Instagram, and you know everybody else seems to say the same thing. I went on YouTube, I watched people build, and then Instagram, and now they've got the live videos of builders and stuff. So you'd say that social media really helped expand as far as you learning it and improving on it.
Yeah, for sure. It's really cool to be able to jump online and see all over the world all these people doing all different things. It's really interesting. It's cool.
And speaking of which, how did you meet Alen and all them? I mean, I've asked everybody kind of how everybody knows each other, but I'm just curious to hear from you.
Just his photography is killer. So like we messaged each other a few times just about different builds and photography and that. So like I've never met him. I'd love to meet him, but
yeah, one day it will happen.
Yeah.
I don't remember like with a lot of these guys. I don't remember like who it was that hit him up first, but I do remember like Kyle. You used to do a lot of builds that were like, I don't know, you call it hedgehog coils, or a lot more like just different types of variations or whatever. And I just, you know, hit him up and just be like how, you know. And I remember just like all these little tiny tricks, you know. And like I remember talking about like pulling back as you're like fusing something on with like, you know, it was the kind of thing where it's all about the prep of like the initial like setting up like the fusing basically. And it's all these little things. So I mean, I don't know who it was that hit each other up first or whatever, but you know, we all kind of share these ideas and techniques. And dude, Kyle's kind of my go-to guy as far as if I see some lately, especially like double fusing and just sort of getting things, I don't want to say perfect, but getting things really clean is the word that I like to use for it, you know.
Fantastic. And another question on that one. So you guys, so you're located in Canada too, Kyle, right?
Correct.
So are there, that you know of, are there a lot of differences regarding what you can and can't do between the United States and Canada, for instance?
When it comes to building?
Building or vape in general?
I don't think so. I mean, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get stuff over the border from the States, like e-juice and stuff. Usually take it.
So Canada doesn't have like any particularly strict regulations outside of like the United States when it comes to vaping?
No, it's very similar. I think they are trying to put in some things, but we don't really know what's happening yet. with that.
Neither do we, apparently. It's been crazy over here. You know, we had that whole flavor ban thing going on. And a few weeks ago, we did a vape show for charity and we vaped all these nasty flavors like garlic and like sriracha and like all these nasty, you know, every time someone donated, we took a puff and it was insane. But yeah, I don't know what's going on over here either with all that. So I guess Canada and the United States are the same in that aspect.
Yeah, it would be more like the UK. The UK seems to really have their stuff together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had this French girl who was talking to me about the differences and she was saying like not only is it way more lax over there, but they've got like all these organic flavors, like way more than the United States has and all this stuff because it's less regulated, I guess. But in any case, everybody out there in the live chat, feel free to ask your questions to Kyle. We've got another 5 or 6 minutes for his segment, so please direct any questions you have towards Kyle. They've been rolling in, so I'm sure that they will ask. But for all of you guys who are watching out there, I'm also going to reiterate that we have a giveaway going on right now and a sale going on. So Kyle, can you tell us kind of like what you did prior to building and other than the therapeutic aspect, if there are any other parts of building that you enjoy besides the desk rig? I mean, I know that some people have said photography, some people have said, you know, so.
Yeah, well, I was a really bad person before I really started. I don't know, building seemed to take me away from all that stuff.
I concur.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so you feel like that kind of like helped you settle down a little bit as a person, actually, like a good hobby or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. Daniel, aka Space Coils, wants to know if you'll be at CVE Toronto.
Yes, I'm gonna try and make it. Absolutely. I tried to go last year, but I had to work. Or last year I had to work though. So I'll see you
And is
there,
Daniel from Canada too?
Yeah, he's from Toronto. Yeah.
So have you guys linked up before IRL or?
I'd love to though. I'd love to meet the guy. Yeah.
There you go, Daniel. You got an invite. This is like catfish, but not really because you know what he looks like and you know he's real. So feel free to go out there. But I have a request to dab. I'm going to do it. All right, you guys. So another question for you, Kyle. What is your favorite setup? RDA, anything that you usually vape off of?
Just Twisted Messes, personally.
Twisted Messes?
Not just because like I'm sponsored, but like I find I get the best flavor off of that. So like I vape the same RDA for over a year now. I've tried other ones and they're too airy or the air doesn't swish, I guess you could say. Like it's hard to describe, but I like Kent's RDAs for sure.
Awesome. And we have another question from the live chat from Chad Nealand. He said, to Kyle, how do you find pricing for your builds? Is it hours or per coil?
How do I find pricing?
He said, how do you find pricing for your builds, hours or per coil?
Oh, I don't sell my builds, essentially.
Okay, so it's really just a hobby thing then?
Yeah, exactly. They're all super low ohms. Like they're usually 0.08, 0.05 and stuff. And I just don't feel comfortable selling that to many people. I've been asked hundreds of times, but I just respectfully say they're super low ohms. It's mostly stainless. I like color. I like the color in coils. So they're mostly stainless steel and nichrome. And they're it's low resistance. So
at least you let people know instead of just giving it to them and charging them. And then you're like,
yeah.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Philip Skrum wants to know, can you ask what camera and lens Kyle uses to take his photos?
Just the Sony A6000 and the Oshiro 60mm. It's to me, I think it's a pretty ghetto setup compared to what some of these guys have and stuff. But
it looks pretty good.
Yeah. That's another thing. It's about a little bit over a year ago, I bought that camera and stuff just because I couldn't really see what I was building. Like once you build something, just taking a picture with my phone, it wasn't doing it justice to see it. So then once I got the camera and stuff, that really changed my perspective into the look of them and stuff.
Awesome. So another question for you is, do you have any other coil builders that you personally look up to or inspire you other than all the wonderful gentlemen we've had on our panel tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Yui or Mindforge. Oh, yeah. Greg Stevens, Widowmaker, Ivan. Those three are the guys that were my main inspiration for since I started. Really, like those guys are incredible. Always clean work. That's what I really appreciate.
Awesome. And Kyle, we're so happy to have had you. I know that we have our next guest, Brent, popping on in just another minute. So is there anything in closing you'd like to say to our audience before you have to pop off? Or, should people DM you on Instagram if they're interested in reaching you? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, if they have, if anybody has questions, you could DM me anytime. I answer everybody. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming on the show, Kyle. And if you need anything from us ever, feel free to reach out. Thank you to everybody in the live chat. Awesome questions for Kyle.
All right. Take care.
Thanks,
Have a good night, Kyle. So next up, you guys, we have Brent from Alen Vapes coming on. It's a little different. We're switching up the show. So far, we've had a lot of people who are builders, but Brent actually sells pre-made coils and stuff out there. He's in the Bahamas. So very cool. And he's, got the business end and the aspect of coils as far as we've got everything from the experts who build it and the artistry of it and kind of the therapeutic aspect of it. And Brent's a little bit versed on the business side of it. So welcome, Brent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I came in early. I thought the time was 7:15.
That's okay. We had some surprise pop-ins today. One of our other guests made a guest appearance for 2 seconds after his segment just to make funny faces and then locked off again. So no problem at all. But no. Brent, this is Alen, by the way, who we also have on the segment with us tonight. He's helping. And Alan's a professional coil builder, so he's a little bit more on the artsy aspect of it on the side and the kind of dexterous end of it. He does, some awesome builds and stuff. But Brent, we'd love to hear a little bit about you, how you got into vaping and coil distribution and into the industry.
Well, I was just, after 30 years of smoking, I was just tired of smelling like a cigarette, like an ashtray all day. And it was just time. It was just time to change. And I started out with an ego pen like everybody else does. And it just went from there. And basically turned a hobby into a business.
Awesome. And speaking of your business, Brent, do you mind if I pull up your Instagram for our viewers so they can check you out and follow you if they're interested?
No, not a problem.
Perfect. So you guys out there in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and pull up Brent's Instagram. His company is Alen Vapes. So you guys want to check that out. Go ahead and check out the handle too, because if you're ever interested, you can reach him a multiple number of ways. In the end of the show, we'll ask you, Brent, which is the best way for people to contact you. But if you guys want to take a look at kind of his products and his business and stuff, feel free to go ahead and check out the Instagram, which we had up a second ago. And I want to take this moment to also reiterate that we have a giveaway going on, and we will be selecting the winner for that in 20 minutes. Alen and Brent will be helping me select that winner at the end. And you guys need to be present in the live chat at 7:35. Be here in the live chat when we pull that winner so that you can say, hey, I'm here, and then your entry will be validated. And we also have a sale going on today. It's a Memorial Day pre-sale, 25% off all our e-juice. Check it out. Links in the description. So Brent, I want to know if there are any major differences in distro when it comes to selling in the Bahamas versus the USA. We're all a North American continent, but I know there might be some differences perhaps.
Oh yeah, well right now I'm selling my coils on ejuices.com, and I'm in the wholesale section. So whenever I get an order, I have to fulfill it from here and send it over. So there's a few days. That's why I have a 5-day lead on my orders, because I've got to get it over to the US through customs and then into the hands of the USPS.
Yeah.
So right now, actually, but my concentrates, the line I'm coming out with, and my liquids they're going to be made in a lab in California called Apollo Labs.
Woo!
And so yeah, it's everything's above board. I've got all my TP numbers, so I'm ready to go.
Nice. And those are going to be new, right? And you're rolling them out fairly shortly.
Yeah, within the next 2 weeks they'll be out, and they're concentrates of my 6 liquids that I have that I sell, and
awesome.
Yeah, some DIY. Everybody's going DIY now, so.
Yes, they are. We recently added DIY to our site. We've got a bunch of brands, like 2,200 brands, and we've got hardware, but DIY is actually relatively new. So we wanted to make sure people were getting all the safe stuff for it so that they can mix it as safely as possible. So.
Well, it was actually on watching one of your shows. A few months ago, when you had one of your people from the from ejuices.com come in, and he was explaining that you guys will be going to DIY soon, and that's when the light bulb went off and said, okay, since you're already selling my coils, we'll go ahead and stick the concentrates on there, and because right now you've got over 14,000 flavors on ejuices.com, and so my 6 flavors would get lost in the shuffle, whereas on the DIY side, there's only one shot concentrate on the site right now. So 1 out of 2 gives me more exposure than 1 out of 14,000. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's awesome that we could couple and kind of make that light bulb go off in any way. So that's cool.
Well, I buy the majority of my liquids and my hardware from my vape shop from you guys as well. So it's keep it all in the family.
Definitely. And that's true. That I think everybody out here is part of the ejuices.com fam. You know, we've had Alen do a bunch of stuff for us. He did a show for us, and Brent, you've been amazing as far as like our coils. Everybody's got them. We're also linking Brent's coils in the chat, you guys. So if you're interested in checking those out, we're linking them in the chat for you guys. But Brent, I want to know, so can you explain any issues you run into on the business end of coil distribution? Because coil, it's a little different of a sphere than e-juices, you know?
Well, I've taken a little different tack than a lot of the builders. I'm not interested in doing all the fancy aliens and frame staples and gargoyle hoofs and all those. No, that's not me. I'm gonna leave that to the professionals. All I do is I try to make a very good fused Clapton that has good flavor and lasts for a good while, and that the everyday vapor can afford. My coils are not $10, $12, $15 of the and higher like some of the guys, because I don't have to put in the work to do those. My coils are a lot simpler, so I don't have to charge as much.
Wonderful. We got some questions for you in the live chat. Rob Fowler wants to know, what is your favorite coil to actually use? Is it that fused Clapton?
Actually, I've got 2 buddies of mine, Freddie Garza and Mitch Green. They make a little fancier coils. Freddie does I apologize.
Oh,
Freddie does the frame staples, and Mitch does the aliens, and that's what I use in all my devices. I've got a couple of B2Ks here and a drop, and Freddie's and Mitch's coils are in all of them. I don't even vape my own coils in there. But my favorite coil of my own is my 0.2 nichrome wraps and nichrome core, and the 0.2 ohms, and they seem to give me the best flavor and the best production for my style of vaping.
We were talking about nichrome earlier, Alen, and it was not the one that you said you preferred.
Yeah. I'd say, like, if I had to pick one over the other, over anything else, it'd definitely be nichrome for sure. And yeah, I see that you're using that B2K. Love that B2K. And yeah, I mean, and also like the regulated aspect too. It's like
awesome.
B2 is like right about that zone where you would like get, you'd still get like decent performance off of like a mech, but definitely like it's cool that, like you said, for your style, and I see that you're using regulated mods. It's like cool to be able to like hone in on exactly like what style of vaping you want.
Yep.
I've found that when I use a regulated mod, 0.2 is like such a great resistance to play with.
Yeah.
And as far as like any other, we were talking about coil experts and stuff in general with Alen and the rest of the panel. Do you have any other coil experts other than what you were just saying, Freddie? And then let's see, what was the other name that you said? Freddie and Mitch, right?
Mitch Green.
Do you have any other coil experts that you really admire, or are those like your predominant 2 that you?
Oh no, I mean, of course you've got a good friend of mine who's in Dubai, Mokhtar. He makes some incredible fused Claptons. The M Turks and the big guys. Yeah, I admire all of them, because the work that they put into those coils is I don't have the time, the patience to deal with the way those guys build. So yeah, I admire them all, because if you have the patience to do that, and some of those coils are gorgeous. Those professionals, yeah, I do admire those. One of these days, hopefully I'll make a decent alien.
I love that, like, nonetheless, like, and especially the fact that you're coming from like more of like the like distribution and more of like the like selling to the public, like that you mentioned M-Turk, you know, and I think that like nonetheless, like doesn't matter like where you get into with the coil niche, it's like it really always comes back to like M-Turk, Twisted Messes, Squid Dude,
Squid Dude,
Omboyos.
yeah.
And I'm sure that yeah, those are guys that you recognize as well. So that's really cool to see. Yeah.
I mean, every industry has their top guys, and you know, I salute them. They do incredible work, and you know they get what they get for their coils because they're dynamite coils. They work well.
Yeah, kind of paved the way for all of us, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
So we got more questions in the chat for you, Brent. Randy Robinson wants to know, is it hard for you to get flavors, as in making house juices?
No, I use Bolt City Flavors as one of my suppliers. I also use ECX on the West Coast. No, I can get all the flavors just like anybody. My only issue and my only problem I have is giving my new flavors time to steep out before I just want to check them way too often. And it's just a pain in the butt just sitting and waiting for them to steep.
Yep. Clean AF Coils says, I will help you out making aliens any day, Brent. So we have someone in the chat who says, if you ever need aliens, they're on it.
Yeah, that's Freddie.
Is that Freddie?
Yeah, that's Freddie.
Hi, Freddie. And that you've been shouted out a few times on this show so far. And Mitch, if you're out there, hi. Brent has some very good things to say about you guys. Kimberly Medvedis, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this question, but I'm going to throw it out there. She said she's getting her first RDA. She knows it can get expensive to buy coils. Does anyone ever use the updated Daedalus Pro coil maker? Is it worth it?
For personal use? Oh, that thing is incredible. I mean, it's hands off. It makes beautiful fuse Claptons, and even the newer version, I think the Pro version, will do frame staples and everything. So yeah, that's an incredible machine for somebody just starting out who wants to get an idea of how to do coils. You know, for a professional, I don't think it would be that good because you're not going to get it tight as wrap as you need. But for somebody that's just building personal coils for themselves, the Daedalus makes a fantastic machine.
Awesome. Yeah, Alen and all the experts use the swivels, you guys, to pull them taut, right?
It's to spin freely. Yeah.
Okay. So it's taut as it needs to be, sort of thing, right?
I mean, for me personally, it's like it kind of depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes like having a lot of tension is necessary. Sometimes having less is necessary. So it's kind of, it gives me that versatility or whatever. But Brent, you might have a different experience, and yeah.
Well, me personally, I just try to get my cores as tight as possible, and then again the wrap as tight as possible. You know, the tighter you can get it, the better I found my experience. The better the coil performs.
Awesome. So you guys, I have a question for you. Do you think the market is more primed, pun intended, for pre-made coils or custom coils, you know, with all the new fancy stuff that we have out there nowadays in 2018?
Well, if you take smoke out of the race, then yeah, there'll be a hell of a lot more coils for us to build, because those guys every week they're coming out with a new tank and a new coil for it. It's crazy, the sub-ohm market out there. Again, it's what you prefer. And I prefer a dripper where I can get the best flavor instead of a sub-ohm tank.
Definitely. And what about you, Alen? Would you say that the world's more primed for, you know, pre-made or custom at this point with all the features that are out there nowadays?
I don't know. I take it by when you say pre-made coils, you mean like the kind of like pre-made coil heads that'll go in like a tank or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Custom coils, like the kind of coils that Brent is
Yeah.
you know, doing.
And
you know, I don't know. I see such a big part of the vape industry being like community and being like really diving into kind of like the hobbyist aspect of it. So I don't know. I think there's room for both, right? There's always going to be somebody who's like, I just don't want to invest the time or the effort or the energy or whatever, like into kind of getting a little bit more involved in the setup or whatever. Nor do I think they really care too much about the difference of performance. You know, and as Brent mentioned, it's all subjective, right? And in terms of our personal vaping experiences, and you know, I think there's a market for both. So my short answer.
well, definitely, Alen, because how we work it in our shop in the Bahamas is when somebody comes in for a starter kit, usually depending on if they're starting for a hobby or they're getting off of cigarettes, we'll either offer them a rock for someone just getting off of cigarettes where you get the higher nicotine, or if it's someone for hobby, we always start with a sub-ohm coil, sub-ohm tank. So yeah, there is a place for sub-ohm tanks. There will always be, because for somebody just starting out, like the what's the smoke? It's the, oh gracious, eye stick. No, it's not the eye stick. I can't remember the exact one. The smoke, it's basically just a, you know, a baby beast tank on a mod, and it's just a, there's no fire button, there's no screen, there's nothing to adjust. So you start off with a sub-ohm coil, and then you move to a dripper, and then from a dripper you move to either a squonker, or we go to, you know, unregulated. So yeah, there will always be a place for sub-ohm coils, in my opinion.
Awesome. And we have another question. They're coming out of the woodwork at you, Brent. Chad Neely wants to know, how do you find pricing to charge for coils? Hours to build or per built coil? Or is it just industry standard kind of pricing?
Well, I went the long route. I basically took the amount of material I needed to make a pair of coils, and you know, it was a long process, and around about, you know, it's all speculation anyway, because you're buying wire by the spool, depending on how long you buy it. So there's not exact science, but we figured it out along the way, and you know, just also you're getting examples from other people what they charge for their particular coils of the same type as yours. So you don't want to, you know, you don't want to be ridiculous and go over those guys, or you know, too far over them, because then you're not going to move any product. So it's just a deduction here and there, trying to figure out what you put into it, as well as what everybody else in the industry is charging for that type of coil, and just come to you know, a happy medium somewhere in between.
Absolutely. And I have another question for you, but before I go into that, I just want to reiterate to all the viewers who are out there, we have a giveaway going on. We are drawing that winner in 4 minutes. Please be present in the live chat to say that you are here, because we'll be doing the giveaway and then wrapping up the show. Brent and Alen will be providing us with their last thoughts to the audience regarding anything they want to say regarding the industry themselves. But speaking of the industry, Brent, and let me just reiterate, you must be in the live chat at 7:35 or your entry will not be considered valid. So Brent, we were talking a little bit earlier, all of us with the panelists and stuff, about what a community it is and amongst the coil builders. And they were kind of saying that there's like sub communities within the community. I think that everyone can agree that vaping is one large, very huge network. It's a big community of people. Everybody kind of has the same goal. And we're all kind of moving towards it, and very supportive in helping people get started. Would you say that you felt kind of like the subcategory of the coil builders community, or because you're a shop owner, do you kind of fall into the shop owners community as well? What sub communities in vaping have you found yourself a part of?
That's difficult, Tina, because when I first started, I started with the liquids, and so I considered myself a mixer, and then I started saying, you know, paying all this money for these coils, there's got to be a market for them too. So if I, you know, if I'm going to be selling my liquids, you know, let me try my hand at the coils. And from there, then it went to basically the shop that I had my coils and liquids in they were having problems and getting ready to close down. So I had to have a place to showcase my stuff. And basically my partner and I got together and said, you know, let's get a shop. And so now basically turned smoking cessation into a hobby, from a hobby now turned into a business. And so it's a heck of a ride.
And it sounds like you've touched on every single one, mixer into the coils, into the vape shop. Do you find that there's a difference, or do you find everybody kind of across the board wants kind of generally the same thing? As far as where the industry is going, and agreeing and disagreeing with certain regulations, and you know, the environment that we exist in nowadays.
There are some differences on how we go about, you know, the FDA scenario and everything. Everybody has their idea of what to do and what not to do. Does the advocacy help? Does it hinder? You know, so many different things. But you can't give up. I mean, and everybody generally has been sticking together on this. You know, there are a few people who will be stick in the muds who don't want to join along, and they're going to stay up by themselves. But for the majority, everybody is getting together to try and fight, because if we don't fight together, we're going to lose what we have. That's the biggest thing. We will lose. Now, does the FDA really pay attention to us, what we want, or they have their own agenda? Again, everybody has their own opinion of that. But in my opinion, yeah, we're doing a good job of sticking together. You know, there'll always be drama in any community. There will always be pockets of drama everywhere. But I think the overall battle, we're all on the same team, hopefully.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think that everybody wants to keep what we have. I think that's why I think forums like this, where you can bring people together, I think is so important. And I think a lot of people in the live chat today have received a huge education on coils that they didn't quite know before. And it's very important, I think, when you are a part of this community, to understand every aspect to the best of your ability. So I just want to thank you, gentlemen, again. We're about to do the giveaway in just a minute, and you know, at the end, we're going to take any last minute questions and of course get your closing thoughts. But again, I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for both coming on and showing us kind of two different sides of the industry, but two different sides of the same coin, I should say.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. And Link Vape says, Brent, why did you decide to focus all of your attention on making the best fused Claptons instead of making other coils? Last question before the giveaway.
Basically the same thing I answered earlier. I wanted something that I could basically market as a reasonably priced coil that gives good performance and good flavor. You know, I wasn't looking to try to make $1 million on the first go around. So that's, you know, and I did mine because I do mine a little different than everybody else as well. Everybody has, okay, these are the coils I make, this ohm, that ohm. I went a different tact. I have a 0.09, a 0.12, a 0.2, a 0.3, a 0.4, and a 0.5. So I tried to give the vapor, you know, as wide a range as possible, anything they need, whether it be for a series, whether it be for regulated, and you know, just trying to offer as many possibilities or as many choices as possible.
Awesome. And Link, I hope that answered your question. And thank you for answering all of the questions for the live chat. I see people in here saying that it's so informational, that they're learning so much from this. So very grateful in the live chat. I think it's now time to do the giveaway. So if I could get a drum roll from you gentlemen, please. We are drawing a winner. Let's see. And our winner is Devin Murphy. Devin Murphy, are you in the live chat? Devin Murphy, let us know that you're here. Say, hey, I'm here, Devin Murphy. We're going to give you a minute or two. And if you're not here, we got to draw someone else. So we are waiting. And Link thanks you for your answer, Brent, in the chat. He says, perfect. So come on, Devin. Let us know that you're in there. Devin, where are you at? Devin Murphy. I'll wait another minute, and then I'm going to draw someone else if you're not in here. I'll wait one more minute.
I'm curious.
Island Vape's coils are dope. So we got a lot of good, you guys have a lot of fans in the chat. Lots of people who know Alen, lots of people who know Brent. All right, so I'm waiting. Devin Hype, I'm waiting. I'll have to see if we have to draw another winner. In the meantime, gentlemen, can you please give any of our audience any closing thoughts, anything regarding your coils, anything that you'd like them to know? And Brent, we have your Instagram up, but I know that there might be another way. If you'd like people to contact you, what would be the best way for people to contact you? I'm
working on my website right now, which is Alen Vapes Distribution, Alen Vapes with 2 Z's. And then IslandVapesDistribution@gmail.com is my email, and I'm also on Facebook. Again, ejuices.com as well. There they carry the stuff as well. So hopefully within the next week or so, my website will be back up. But if you go to that website, it'll direct you to my Facebook page where you can see the coils as well.
Awesome. And gentlemen, I'm going to redraw this winner one more time, and then we'll get your closing thoughts because this guy has left the coop. So I'm going to go redraw, unannounced, and I'm picking a weird win, you guys. So we're repicking the winner, and the winner is Illustrative Gaming. Illustrative G, are you in here? Oh, whoops, Devin's here. Never mind. Sorry about the illustrative gaming. Never mind. I see Devin in the live chat. He took a second to come back. So next time, illustrative gaming. But Devin, feel free to email me. Go ahead and email me at ejuicescom@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that you get your prize. So, gentlemen, any closing thoughts for our audience?
Alen, you first.
Well, I mean, thanks so much for having me on, and it's super cool to be able to bring some other guys on too. I think the first time I came on and was talking about coil building, I mentioned a lot of the guys that ended up coming on tonight. So it's nice to be able to share it with those guys. And as you kind of heard, a lot of us take inspiration from each other, and it's just super cool to be able to hanging out, on the stream with those guys, and super cool to get some input from the different side of the coil building community from Brent. And I totally agree with what you said, Brent. I think we're all in this together. At least we hope that we are, and so it's nice to be here with all of you.
Oh.
And thank you so much again, Alen, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
And again, thank you so much for having me as well. Just trying to get my stuff out there and get going with this. So I really appreciate it, Tina and Alen. It was awesome. And some of the folks in the chat said they learned a little bit today. So that's always a good thing.
I think so. And, thank you guys so much for everything. Again, it was really informational for me too, to talk to you both. I had an amazing time chatting with you guys tonight. And as you guys heard earlier, there's the preferred way. He's working on his site. He gave his email. We also have Brent's Instagram. So if you guys want to DM him through there, you can contact him. Same with Alen. You can DM him through Instagram. If you guys have any questions for these experts, or if you're watching the show after the fact, you can go ahead and comment underneath the video, and I will make sure personally that these gentlemen get your questions and we get whatever answers you need answered. So I want to say thank you all for joining me. We will not be having a live show next week. We're doing it every other week. We're trying it out. So June 5th will be our next live show at 6 p.m. Tune in then. Dev, go ahead and email me. And you know what? Island Gaming, I know that I called you, so go ahead and email me as well at ejuicescom@gmail.com. I know that we pulled you second, so I want to hook you up with something just because you would have been our winner. There was a bit of a lag. So go ahead, both of you guys, and email me at ejuicescom@gmail.com. Once again, Brent, Alen, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And have an amazing evening, you guys.
Good one.